Thanks so much, Amit. As I said before, my name is Priyanka Deo from TV9, and I'll be anchoring today's session. So namaste. Welcome to the Leaders of Global Bharat webinar, which is a special initiative of TV9 Network and SAP India. Now, when COVID triggered a setback to the economy, TV9 Network and SAP India turned its focus on positives to showcase the fighting spirit of India's homegrown businesses. TV9 Network has been featuring business leaders of homegrown firms in unique series called Leaders of Global Bharat. And it's an attempt to showcase that these leaders are living embodiments of enabling an Atmanirbhar Bharat, or a self-reliant India. As the economy charts the revival path, which I'm excited to get to during our session, MSMEs too are springing back to life, and state governments, in line with the objective of Make in India and Make for the World, are empowering small and medium enterprises. Now, as Telangana government takes the lead to digitally transform these small and medium enterprises and give them a global marketplace by associating with SAP India, today we discuss how the state MSMEs are getting ready for the future. So today we bring together a fabulous panel. First of all, I'd like to introduce our panel. It's Secretary Jayesh Ranjan, who is the Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce for Government of Telangana. And we also have Mr. Sunil Reddy, who is the MD of Dodla Dairy, Mr. Subramaniam Anantapadma, let me try that one more time, Subramaniam Anantapadmanaban, who's from SAP India, and Ms. Aparna Reddy from Aparna Industries. So now, before we begin our session, I'd like to first welcome Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, who's the Principal Secretary of the Industries and Commerce for Government of Telangana, to give his welcome address and talk a little bit about his vision, especially from the Government of Telangana perspective. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Priyanka. Good afternoon, fellow panelists. Good afternoon to all the attendees. Let me first of all begin by congratulating SAP India and TV9 for putting together this interaction session. It is very, very relevant, very topical, and my congratulations to both of you. Now, we all know what kind of dramatic and unbelievable kind of adverse consequences that we have faced because of this pandemic, and particularly the lockdown, the very restrictive lockdown, and all the after effects of that lockdown in different sectors of our economy, different parts of our society. And one very good thing is that we hopefully are seeing the end of this pandemic. Lots of activities have been completely unlocked, and but for few worrisome points in certain pockets of the world, things are getting as fast to normal as possible. On the other hand, vaccination programs have also started, and that also gives lots of optimism. For those who live in Hyderabad and Telangana, things have always been under control, even during, let us say, March of last year and April of last year. The severity of the problem was not as much as it was, let us say, in some other Indian states. And also the way our government has managed and created a sense of confidence about the problem, etc., that earned it lots of appreciation. But one thing, as I mentioned, is very true, that different sectors of the economy have been badly impacted, and definitely the MSME sector. I mean the MSME players in these sectors. See, not to say that the large players have not been impacted. In many sectors, the large players have also been badly hit, but because the large players have deeper pockets, their ability to manage and kind of bounce back once things become normal is much more than an MSME. And from a government's perspective also, the big boys can take care of themselves, but the government does expect to play a very important role in helping in the economic recovery or the economic revival in this post-pandemic scenario. So I'm delighted that Telangana government and SAP signed an MOU a couple of months ago, in which the focus is on MSMEs and the focus is on digitalization. In fact, I'm a part of many other conversations which are happening across the globe, including one very important one which the World Economic Forum has steered, in which we are all talking about how digitalization can aid the process of economic recovery. And one such working group which has been constituted, which I co-chair incidentally, is to look at MSMEs. What are the digital tools that are available, and how do you encourage the MSMEs to really benefit from those digital tools? How to make those digital tools affordable, accessible, how to customize based on sectoral requirements, and also the fact that MSMEs also, while we use the term in a very homogeneous way, but we know that there are lots of differences amongst MSMEs also. In fact, I'm reminded of a very interesting study which was done by a consulting firm called Dun and Bradstreet some years ago. So this is slightly dated, but the survey which they had done, the study which they had done was very interesting. And even if I take a couple of minutes more, I would like to share a little bit about that survey. So what Dun and Bradstreet had done was that they had surveyed a sample MSMEs, about I guess some 300-400 or so, to find out what is their digital footprint. And they had created a scale. One side of the scale was very basic questions, that does the owner or the founder use an email, then does he maintain some databases, and then it gradually progresses, like do you use software like let us say Tally or any other kind of simple accounting software, and then it becomes slightly more complicated. Do you have a website? Do you have a full-blown ERP? Are you on e-commerce? So ranging from some very basic kind of question points to very advanced kind of question points on the usage of digital. And you will be amazed, of course, as I said, this is a slightly dated study, more than 5-6 years ago. But 5-6 years ago, when the data was presented to me in a formal seminar, it was an eye-opener. The data showed that almost 65% of the MSME owners did not even use an email. So normally when we talk about digital and all, that normal phrase that we use in these kind of conferences is that help them move up the ladder and all that. But here is a scenario that they don't even see the ladder. They don't even know that there is a ladder. So imagine, of course, things would have changed for the better, hopefully, but still a large number of MSMEs are extremely disconnected with the digital world. But then there are other positive signs also. In fact, during this COVID-induced lockdown, as you know, in the early days in March or so, when the restrictions were very, very heavy, we had all of us had difficulties in accessing even basic supplies like groceries, etc. And then the government realized, and e-commerce was permitted, so you can order groceries sitting at home. But we know that typically in an old city like Hyderabad, which has a history of more than 450 years, eventually the city gets divided into small neighborhoods, and typically in every neighborhood there will be one or two kirana stores, these local grocery stores who are called kirana stores, and they are the ones with whom you have developed some kind of a relationship, some kind of an attachment. You have been shopping there, your father would have shopped there, your grandfather would have shopped there, and they also know who you are. Sometimes you go there, you don't have enough change, they kind of allow you to run it over as a credit, and so on and so forth. And obviously during that lockdown period, you felt sad that there is nothing that you can do for such people. But then we got an idea, and with the help of a partner organization, we converted literally thousands of such kirana stores into digital stores. We digitized their inventories, we created a small website for them, we arranged for payment gateway, and all the grocery shop owner had to do was to organize a couple of boys who would deliver the stuff once orders were successfully transacted. And normally you don't imagine grocery shopkeepers to be very, shop owners rather, grocery shop owners to be very tech savvy, very educated. But when they realize that there is no other way, it is, you know, perform or perish, then they all kind of, and this transition was very, very fast. In a matter of weeks, we were able to cover thousands of such people. So even if, as I mentioned earlier from the Dun and Bradstreet study, even if they don't see the ladder, the digital ladder that is, but if compelling circumstances arise, it is possible to help them transition, provided you approach them with lots of understanding, handhold them, explain to them what are the trade-offs, and so on and so forth. So I'm very confident that the digital journey of our startups also in Hyderabad, in the rest of the country, will be smooth. And as I said, 2 months ago, we signed an MOU with SAP India. The MOU has three components in particular. One is skilling, because we know that there are many of the people, many of these MSMEs are reluctant to go towards digital with a mindset issue. There's a mental block that I require to be highly educated. Should have been to a college. I should know how to speak English. And if I do not, then perhaps this digital world is far beyond me. So simple ways of skilling them and their key employees is one of the components of this MOU. Second is to provide to them a affordable but comprehensive ERP system. So how do you really take care of all your organizational matters, your transactions, and so on and so forth. And the third thing, which again is very important, particularly very relevant in this current reality, is a marketplace. So if you have a product which can have international buyers as well, SAP will help those products to be placed on that global marketplace. So three components of this MOU, as I said, and in my opinion, very kind of pertinent components, very useful for MSMEs. And I'm very sure that if we start rolling these components out in the coming few months, our MSMEs will be able to get into a faster track of economic revival, despite all the adverse consequences and challenges they faced in the last few months. And I'm glad that the panel includes some of our most prominent entrepreneurs, MSMEs, people like Sunil, whom I know since quite a long time. Also Aparna Garu, who represents a new vertical. So let us hear from their experiences. What does it take to make the MSMEs adopt to more and more digital, and what do they expect out of this Telangana government and SAP partnership? So I'll stop with this, but happy to interact with all of you later in the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranjan. That was a great introduction. But before we begin our panel discussion, which I'm super excited to hear more from our entrepreneurs as well and our panel as well, we first would like Mr. Subramanian Anantapad. Let me try it one more time. We'd like to have Mr. Subramanian Anantapadmanabhan from SAP India to speak a little bit on the Global Bharat program. So I'd like to give it to Subramaniam ji right now. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Priyanka. To make it easy for you, you can address me as Subbu going forward. That's how I'm called. Everyone
Great.
faces this challenge of my last name. So Subbu is how I prefer to. Thank you for that introduction. Firstly, before I start, I want to thank the Honorable Secretary of Telangana Government, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. We are indebted and we are grateful for this MOU that has been signed with the government. The objective of this partnership is to utilize the technology, the services that we can provide to promote a very vibrant ecosystem of entrepreneurs in the state. So, sir, thank you very much for this MOU with SAP. Coming to your question, Priyanka, what is Global Bharat all about? Okay, Mr. Ranjan did speak a few words about how we should be working with MSMEs as the recovery comes along. But I'll give you a small perspective. We are coming out of a pandemic, right? And the pandemic taught us a few things. It showed us that how important remote collaboration is. It showed us the importance of reskilling, upskilling, cross-skilling to keep the businesses working to ensure business continuity, to handle business risk, if you may. Okay, so there were a lot of things that the pandemic taught us. So as a technology provider, as a market leader in enterprise automation, we picked up some of these signals quite early. Okay, so sometime in June last year, June 2020, we launched the Global Bharat program. It's now been renamed to Global Bharat Movement, and I will explain why so in a short while. So as part of the Global Bharat program, as Mr. Ranjan explained, we focused on three pillars. The first one, and the most important in my view, was providing MSMEs and access to a much wider marketplace. Okay, so we run SAP Ariba Network, which is a global B2B platform that runs commerce worth 3.3 trillion USD annually. Okay, so we open that up to the MSMEs in the country. So as an MSME, one can register as a supplier and offer his or her services into the network, and any one of the 4 million suppliers that are available on the network can then bid for your service, thereby expanding your market. In today's times, remote collaboration, remote work is essential in the new normal. And so finding a market sitting from where you are becomes extremely important. That's what the pandemic taught us, digital transformation. The second bit is about skilling. Again, you would have seen how important it is to empower the workforce, even though they are working out of home. There were instances where plants completely were shut down for some of the companies, and they had to resort to upskilling or cross-skilling of cross-section of employee workforce to do more than what they were expected to do to keep the business running, right? So skilling becomes extremely important. Well, what we did was we had a physical coaching. Under our Code Unnati program, we had already trained about 1 lakh youth in the country through 1,500 physical centers. We took that digital. Okay, we converted that into an app called Code Unnati again, where 240 odd courses were curated and provided online to MSMEs across financial literacy, digital productivity, office applications, you name it. So whatever is required for an MSME to upskill their population, we try to provide that through Code Unnati platform. And the third one is affordable technology. If as SAP, if as a market leading provider of automation solutions, if we are able to provide our solutions at affordable price points, we can expand the usage of technology to the entire MSME community. So that's what we did. We brought our SAP Business One Starter Pack Edition into the country. This is a subscription-based offering and sold through our partners for a starting price of 3,999 per user per month, which is affordable today to start with. And if a solution like SAP, a robust solution like SAP is made affordable to every company, you can imagine the process efficiencies that we could build into the ecosystem. So these were the three pillars that we essentially conceptualized Global Bharat program in June 2020 and brought all these together under online business community, a portal called growthmattersforum.com. Now this was a portal where all the MSME owners could come, exchange, share best practices, exchange experiences, and learn from each other. Okay, what started off with 2,200 odd members in June quickly grew up to about 17,000 odd by December, and today we are a shade under 20,000. So it's no longer a program. We're seeing this as a movement. We're seeing this that the MSMEs are wanting to be here and exchange experiences and partake of the benefits that Global Bharat provides. So it's now renamed as Global Bharat Movement, and we're expecting a lot of offtake in this. We're expecting to contribute to the state of Telangana, all the MSMEs in there. I would urge everyone on this call to log into growthmattersforum.com and avail of the benefits if you already are not there. We would be very, very happy to partner. So that in a nutshell, Priyanka, is the reason why we launched Global Bharat program and now Global Bharat Movement. And we are, as we speak, actively engaged in all of these three pillars with quite a few MSMEs inside the state of Telangana.
And thanks, Subhuji. That was great. And quite a few MSMEs is right, because I believe the number is over 26 lakh MSMEs in the state, right? And as you said, the three pillars that you mentioned before are super, super important. Digital transformation, workforce skilling, and number three, access to a more global marketplace. So with that being said, let's go right into our discussion. But first, I'd like to go directly to our fabulous entrepreneurs. So first of all, can I have Ms. Aparna Reddy introduce herself? Aparna, can you please tell us a little bit about what you've done, what you do, and a little bit about yourself? Aparna, I think you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah. Hi, Priyanka. Able to hear me now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Honored to be part of this panel discussion today. I'm Aparna Reddy, Executive Director of Aparna Enterprises Limited, a building material company, and a 30-year-old, three decades old building material company. We predominantly deal with vitrified tiles, UPVC and aluminum windows and doors, and we have ready-mix concrete as well. And then we trade some of the European brands of sanitary and CP. So being part of this organization from past 10 years, I mean, COVID has taught me a lot, being an entrepreneur, and it actually, uncertain times actually taught us how resilient and, patient and positive we have to be in the COVID situation, any pandemic situation, because March 22nd was the time when lockdown announced last year, and 45 days at home, and I see a lot of businesses, let it be small, big, whatever, it's like, very uncertain situation. People thinking, basic thing is about the livelihood, leave about the businesses. People thinking like, what will this pandemic will do to the humankind and also the global environment. That was the main question running on everyone's mind. But eventually, I should say our country especially been placed really well compared to other countries across the globe. Even let it be our state, let it be other states, we control it really well. Looking at the population, especially being a 130 crore population, even the WHO and other countries were also looking at us, how well we can control, because we are a large populated country. But I'm really proud of how we've tackled the situation, and almost we are coming to the normalcy now. Looking at the vaccine drive also, we were able to get to the vaccine stage so early. That means, like, everyone put a lot of effort, as well as the funding was also right for the the companies for the to come out with the vaccine so quickly. I'm sure this journey of 10 months or a 1-year journey has taught us a lot. Let it be for the businesses or let it be the human race. It actually sensitized us towards how we need to take care of the nature as well as our health and everything. The priorities actually changed. The topic is about digitization. I think, like, the main important things are, like, before, earlier was like clothing, food and shelter. Now I think some of the white goods as well as the telecommunication products also came into the essential needs now. Because with the work from home, and also we are digitizing, yeah, as our principal secretary mentioned, necessity actually makes us things go quickly, like, if to learn, to skill someone also, it becomes so easy for us now, because they also see the need of the hour. That's how people have shifted to the digitization so quickly too, with minimal effort. But only thing is, like, it has to be affordable and accessible to everyone now. That's how the government and also the others
So that's a super important point that you bring up, Aparna. Before we get into that, let me quickly have Mr. Sunil Reddy introduce himself. Sunil ji, the floor is all yours. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. Sunil ji, I think you have to unmute your microphone.
Sorry, the new things that we learn after COVID days. So hi, my name is Sunil. Thank you, Priyanka, for giving me the opportunity to be on this webinar. We are a company my name is Sunil. We are a company based out of Hyderabad. We are in the business of procuring, processing and distributing milk and milk products. We operate in the 4 southern states of India, that is the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. We operate in Africa, in Uganda and Kenya. We are a 23-year-old company. As we go forward, I will try to explain what has happened with us during COVID, and it's very apt that we have Subramaniam Garu here with us today, that we can also explain how being into technology and adapting has helped us a lot. So thank you. I'll leave the floor to you, and we'll take questions from there. Thank you, Priyanka.
Great, thanks, Sunilji. So let's get right into some of the questions that I have. Now, as Aparna was saying a little bit before, its priorities did change. I think March 22nd was a really fateful day for everyone, and especially for entrepreneurs, right? Because you probably had a million questions on your mind. What is going to happen? What are we going to do? And I think, Sunil, you and I were talking a little bit before this webinar, what do you think? Where is the economy going? So now, as we are overcoming COVID-19, right? Sunil and I were just saying before this webinar that nobody's really scared of COVID-19. But at this point, the economical impacts are very real, right? This is something that entrepreneurs have to face all the time. Now, what I want to ask you, I work with a lot of youth, right? So the first question that I have with you, a lot of youth are very, very, very empowered and really excited to start, their own company, be their own person, be their own boss, just like you two are, Aparna and Sunilji. So I think what a lot of us really want to know is in terms of entrepreneurship and MSMEs, right? Where can we, what are the, what inspired you guys to start where you did? Because Sunil, you guys deal with very different things. I think Aparna, you deal with concrete, and Sunil, you deal with milk. So where did your journey start? Can you tell us how you got into what you got into, basically? Let's start from there, and then let's take the questions from there. Aparna, if you'd like to start, how did you begin, and how did you decide to get into something like concrete?
Yeah, I'm a second generation into business, so it was something which I should get into. That was the only thing that I had on my mind, that I have to join the family business. So yeah, I'm not a civil engineer. I'm an electronics and communication engineer, but apparently I have to do this now. So yeah, I ended up here and getting into building. Building material is quite exciting because we being a developing country, and also there's a lot of need for the infrastructure growth and everything. So building materials is the foremost important thing to for the nation as well, because fortunately there's not too much of a technology interference in building materials, like how you see the e-commerce or all the digital companies, where every 5 years now, it's like every 5 years something new comes up. You need to adapt to the situation, otherwise you become redundant at some point of time, because it keeps evolving. It's pretty fast. But building materials is not like that. Technology is involved only in the way you manufacture products, but ultimately the products are there. Like, you require concrete to build. I don't think so there's something going to replace concrete in the near future to build a building.
Right, it's always going to be there. Pandemic or not.
Yeah, and then you require flooring, and you require windows, because that's how I don't see much of an change in this kind of a business, unless the only thing is, like, we just need to involve a bit of a technology in the way we work and produce the products.
Right. So with that being said, that's a great last line that you left me on, because Sunil, you deal with milk, which is a very, very perishable product. So I'm sure that you had not 1 million, but 2 million questions when this lockdown came about, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how did you decide to get into milk and milk industry?
Priyanka, I come from, my grandfather comes from the village in Nellore in Andhra Pradesh. He was an agriculturist who moved to the town of Nellore. My dad started a paper mill. I have a brother. I didn't want to do what the family was doing, and I wanted to start something on my own. And that's how the journey started. I studied in a college called MIT. So before you get shocked, it's Manipal Institute of Technology, otherwise known as Mangalore University, which is there. But I would grant it a great credit that the college where I studied was the one which gave us the encouragement to do something on our own. Because from primary, when we were in college, there was always this entrepreneurial spirit that was promulgated in the college itself. So while coming out, and that independence that comes in was the reason why we started to say I wanted to do something on my own. So I think the trigger of what you want to do is something which has to be, either you call it as inbuilt or you call it as the circumstances you are in will make you do something on your own. I mean, you can become an entrepreneur at 50, you can become an entrepreneur at 25. It also is a subject to the environment and the scenario you're in. Take mine example, I went in, I wanted to do something on my own because I went to see what my brother was doing was not comfortable between being two of us. Then wanted to come out and do what I wanted to do on my own. My dad was there. He was very helpful in starting it up. So I think I was one of the few lucky people because there was not the financial headache that I had a little bit of money given by my dad to start a business. And then, of course, the process of what you want to pick and how do you choose. So there were 5 of them. First 3 failed. The other 2 became successful. I sold shrimp feed for a while. Way back in '96, I exported mangoes to Singapore. Didn't happen. But the knowledge that you keep giving. So for anybody who wants to do something on their own, there is no sure shot success. There is nothing. You have to keep trying and do it. But you have the grit and determination to keep fighting with it. You have to. And like, when you look at Mr. Jayesh Ranjan sir, if you meet the right people at the right time, you find things to be super efficient and fast. For me, it happened on that way. Why I picked Jayesh Ranjan as a principal secretary at a point of time when I was struggling in life. I had APIDC, which was a government institution where there was somebody there who was able to come forward and say, don't worry, we will support you, right? So it's the way you are. You're positive, you keep driving, you will meet the right people and right things happen. So it's just a drive that you need to have, not to get into the comfort zone of, of what you're doing. To give an example, why I picked the thing of MIT, I did go for my job interview in campus interviews. I was not picked. My friends who got picked went into the comfort zone of saying, hey, I got a great job, I'm going to go there. I had nothing else to do and I couldn't keep on stretching out my arm to my dad for my expense money, right? So you had to do something on life. So when that something comes in, keep trying and you'll be there. There is nothing to, I mean, the way you pick ideas, there'll be a dime a dozen. Every year there is something new that comes on, like, when we look at it and say that what is new. Now I keep coming and saying that the younger generation has got more opportunities now, because take something like what Atmanirbhar is trying to do and give production. Defense as a sector has opened up, which was never opened up for the Indian manufacturers, for example. N number of things, but you can keep doing, fighting and go for it. So I think it's a determination of what you want to do rather than any other reason. And like I was keep telling, in earlier days, India would be a fortress of people who had money. I don't think it is there anymore, right? Earlier we had development institutions like what as APIDC or what whether which gave money. Today the development institutions might not be there, but it's changed in the form of you have venture capitalists, you have angel investors, you have multiple things. So if the drive is there, you can do anything that you need. So I think that's what the entrepreneurs need to take home if they want to do on their own.
No, that's great. And as you mentioned MIT before, so I grew up in the US. So the first MIT that came to mind was a bit different. But as PM Modi said, it's not a Harvard, right? It's hard work. So thank you for that. That's super inspiring. So very interesting from you two, because as Aparna said, she's kind of second generation. And as Sunil said, he wanted to just part ways with the family and do something completely different. And Sunil, I think that your advice is really good. Because if one idea doesn't work, don't give up on it. Just pick another one and see how that goes, right? So I think that that's super important, to stay moving and to keep being motivated and to keep doing things in the right way. Because if you have 10 ideas, at least 2-3 of them will hit, right? So just keep working with that. Now let's talk about another sort of pillar that Subbuji mentioned, which is digital transformation. I think Mr. Ranjan said something really important when he was addressing all of us, that something so simple as digitizing these grocery shops, right? It made such a big difference. So now, Aparna, let me come to you and let me ask you, how do you digitize? As you said before, the pandemic, when it struck you, you were also thinking, how do we adapt? How do we prioritize? How do I do this? How do I do that? You must have had a ton of questions. But among that, is there, can you explain maybe to all of us how you digitally or you adapted to the digital in terms of your product? Like, how do you make concrete floors and windows go digital?
So yeah, as I said, work from home, at least for our factories, it was not possible at all, because we need to run the factories to produce the product. So, but only thing is, like, labor was a constraint. So I don't say it's like a digitization, but we've gone into a mechanization. Like, we've started using a lot of machines, because manpower became a constraint. So we started skilling our people also, like, to get on to because if you have to use a high-end machines, like, we need to do some kind of a skill development for the people working in the factories as well. So that's how we work. And coming to our offices, we are anyways on the ERP front, and like, communication, at least pandemic, at least people started communicating over emails rather than it was just over calls or something. Now people got onto the emails, and like, few of our team members, like, part of our accounts team and part of our digital marketing team, we've given them the option to work from home as well, because then, you know, at least communication started over emails and everything. So it actually taught us the importance of using the written communication, like, you know, that's how it is. Not too much of a digitization for our company as well. Only thing is, like, at the factories we gone into a mechanization mode, and a bit of in the HO, that's it.
Thanks, Aparna. And that's also super important to recognize, right? You have to use digital. It has many different aspects. You don't have to go totally digital, but where your company had not gone digital before, you did, and you did adapt to that, which is actually a really big thing. I mean, you said that it wasn't too much, but that's actually a huge deal, because the time frame that you had to adapt was not that much. So I will put the same question to Sunil ji, because I'm very curious. How do you make milk go digital?
For us, we have gone back to a very great extent in digitization. Although we are in the milk business, we deal with 150,000 odd farmers every day where we procure milk. We have to give them the quantity, the quality. We have to make them the payments to be made. Transport has to run. So I think the foremost thing that came out with the pandemic was the culture of the organization, which was able to withstand this. Like I said, the 22nd, it was announced that there is a lockdown, and we being in the essential commodities had to run on 23rd too. So we didn't know what will happen. We get up, will there be the truck driver who will come in? If you guys notice as consumers, I don't think you faced any disruption in your milk supplies when it happened. So I think I'm very proud to be an Indian now. That I thought that, no, India didn't have this, didn't have that, but it worked flawlessly when the time of need did come up, right? So although there was a lockdown, and I look at it as permissions to be required, we needed, let's say, special permissions to go from place to place. The cops were out there in the force trying to enforce a lockdown. But in the same manner, we were able to get, as a dairy industry, a representative sitting in the police control room from a competitor company. But all of us could call him, and then he would organize the passes to come. Right from that, as simple as that, being proud to be an Indian in terms of the telephone system working. And like when I look at all my Airtel and my internet working, when we moved to work from home from corporate office, lo and behold, internet was working everywhere, right? I mean, SAP, we were worried that we have these huge investments made to be on-site houses, data centers, whether we have redundancies, and therefore we keep everybody working in the office. And the infrastructure did come in. How it happened, details we don't know, but all my guys were able to take their laptops home, they were able to connect, they were able to come on. The big challenge that faced for us is what we were finding difficult to implement in digitization. We used COVID as an example. Because the webinar that we are on today, or let's take using Zoom as a form of communication. If non-COVID, I had to introduce a video conferencing kind of a thing to get on calls, would have entailed a huge training program. But here, exactly a week later, we were all on webinar, on Zoom calls and talking to everybody and going forward. And like if you take when you were sick and when the medical facility or fraternity came online by doing home remedy on calls with the telephone thing, was the same thing that we were able to utilize to keep our workforce going. How do you give confidence to a guy when the rest of the city is shutting down, that he still has to get up in the morning and deliver milk, and somebody has to go milk and cow, and a truck driver has to pick it up and come? So we were able to give that confidence in the we will step in as a company. And Arogyashri, no, not Arogyashri, what is it? Arogya Setu, or that whatever that app that came up, to be able to put it on, tell that people were around, you were there. So I was surprised to see the fast reaction of the tech world that came in. And since Subbu is here and he promised to give a $399 per month, 3,999 per month, I come to the BI part of it, right? SAP has got some wonderful insights if you have the right data in place. There's the right data in place of what is happening. So that BI insight, like how Rajeshji was talking about the Kirana stores coming and being digitized and being online, the gold mine of data is where I request government of Telangana. But today, because for us in India to go to the next step of trying to use a proper BI tool to go do is very expensive. I have to pay ORG mark to get a huge amount of money for data. But whereas it's already there, right? If GST is being paid by every Kirana store, it's already there that I can get to know how many stores are there, where the delivery is happening. Mapping is the second thing. I just read in the papers that mapping is now becoming more of the Indian mapping. Otherwise, depending on Google's maps and paying a fortune for Google Maps, what is happening. So I think that is where the government can help the industry tremendously, especially this new thing that they've come up with MSMEs and Atmanirbhar. If we can get access to data, it will be so much more easier for us to plan, to be able to execute as companies. Like what Aparna was saying for buildings, where do I get to know who all are building now? Everybody files in the municipal permissions for getting buildings, right? If it is available as a data source to see how many new building permissions have been given, who's been given, it becomes so much more easier for us to go and access or market to those guys, right? I mean, we don't even have to be a global marketplace. Even for the Indian marketplace to get activated, to know what is happening. I think that is where, from a government of Telangana and a SAP point of view, they're using SAP, but when I want to go build a BI, I have to go to a McKinsey or somebody who comes with the layering of data. A McKinsey can today give me my market requirement based on layering it with the building density and saying that there's so much of building density here, therefore you guys should do this. And layering on top of that, saying so many other apartments that are available, therefore you should have so much of market space. So I guess that way technology goes a great way. And the last thing I would like to do it before I think is the payment gateways that have come up. I was impressed. Our entire 150,000 farmer community, within a span of 1.5 months, we were able to move them into digital payment. That is a milk bill that is processed, is sent on the cell phones, and the money is being transferred into the bank accounts directly. So that middleman enablement happened rapidly for us. And again, as I said, I'm proud we have a lot of equipment that we get either from Sweden or China. And when we had no communication, guys couldn't come to install. The ability of our guys to go on call and do these, configuring machines and trying to get them installed. So the myth was broken. So no longer are we feeling insecure about technology, about something saying, oh, I won't touch that button because I don't know what will happen. But now we are more confident of saying, let's go experiment with things, let's go do more. So I'd look at it in that positive manner of going forward. And that's how it has been a great boon to us. That it broke all the barriers. Now travel has become zero for us. We are on Zoom, so why do you need to travel? It's more of getting together. So as simple as it. So it's been good. We have learned all of the new things to do, learn to be better, trying to use algorithms for revamping routes, because suddenly you had a volume shrinkage, volume expanding. Do you not use these trucks? How to use logistics software to move in? And it all fell into place. I think it's been a great opportunity. And from an entrepreneurship point of view, like you were asking questions earlier, it did spawn a whole breed of entrepreneurs who came in. Like I got my vegetables and greens from some entrepreneur who was saying, I'm connecting a village to where I live. And he came in a truck. He was not there before, but he still continues to come now. So I think a lot of opportunities did come up. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thanks for that. So with that being said, let me go to Aparna. And I think you spoke a little bit about how your workforce started going on emails and written communication became important, right? Right after the lockdown. That was one of the things that you noticed. But now can I ask you, especially since you are second generation, right? What next? How do you plan to build your company forward, especially with this sort of digital, I should say, accelerated digital transformation that has happened? And what Sunil was also describing, that we're not afraid of technology anymore. We're not afraid to. There were many changes that were for the good. Sorry, that we don't have to go to different places. There's a Zoom call or there's a virtual meet like we're having now. So a lot of those things got implemented automatically because of COVID-19. But now, using this sort of digital transformation, using these new skills that your workforce has, right? I'm sure all of them are much more fluent in written communication than they were before COVID-19 hit, especially. How do you plan to build things to the next level, especially since you're second generation?
Yeah, so the next level thing you're talking about, see, we are a pan-India player, if not for concrete, for other materials, we are a pan-India player. The way we see the product, like, windows or floor tiles or whatever, we are building an app for it, like, where a customer can select the products online. We are now building an app for it so that, they can directly log in, and it's like a virtual home, like, even a person wants to select a product, they can actually mention the sizes and gives an option of what kind of a design and all those things. So we are getting onto building that now, because we feel this is very much required, because until today we need a human interaction. We need to talk to a customer, because customer has to explain what they need and all. Now we are building an app so that, with less human interaction, sitting at their home only, they can finalize the product what they want. That gives us the access for all the product lines that we have, and it becomes easy for them to shop, just like an e-commerce, like how you do a clothing shopping, they can do this kind of a shopping. So we are working on that app right now. Maybe it takes another 6 to 8 months actually. So later on we will test it out in the market how well it is working, because currently for the building materials shopping especially, it is not too much of a digitization happening. But now we are getting into this and see if people can shop other appliances and clothing, other kind of a thing online, why can't they do this? It's
Right.
we, if this clicks, then this will also go fully digital, like people can shop online even for such kind of products. So on that we keep adding different, for especially for enterprises, we are purely focused on building material segment. So we keep adding a lot of variety of building products in future as well, because now we have 4 product lines. We will be coming up with more product lines later on as well, because that's where we see a future. Like I said, we are a developing country, so there are a lot of scope for the infrastructure development, where these are the essential products for the infrastructure growth as well.
All right, and I'll put the same question to Sunil. Actually, Aparna, one of my favorite games growing up was The Sims, and I really loved, building the house, building the floors, building the design, and so I am super excited to see what you guys come up with within the next few months. I think that's super exciting, and congratulations. I'll put the same question to Sunil now. What is next? How are you planning to take milk forward? I think you have to unmute your mic.
So I think what's happened, there's like I keep saying, the mindset of thinking has changed a lot. I mean, if you look at the cooking part of it, people cooking from YouTube and cooking at home, with the consumption of cheese on the increase, with consumption of more people looking at functional foods. Is it just a COVID fad, or is it going to continue? I think 1 year has been a long enough time for habits to change. So there's been a lot of habit changing, like let's say online grocery purchase has sort of taken off the charts, and now people are beginning to find it to be comfortable to do online grocery purchase. So the old school is sort of, we were old school, brick and mortar, delivering. A milk guy would come and deliver at home and you would do it, towards now you getting an option of picking and choosing what you want. Health consciousness has gone through the roof. People were starting to wash their milk packets and take milk with the worry of sanitization. Are they now going to move into a UHT, and is it going to go to the next level of being, I want a sterilized milk rather than a pasteurized milk? So I think it's still rapidly evolving as where it goes, but it has also taught us that we need to be on the platforms of online deliveries to more functional foods, like the ability to explain a functional food online, in terms of, like I said, when there's a YouTube video, we suddenly saw an uptake in people trying to see how to make curd at home, because people had forgotten to make curd. They were buying curd, and if they didn't get curd and they had milk, and now a guy wants to know how to make his curd by putting a culture to it. It's a science by itself that he has to learn. So now we are saying, oops, we didn't have a website where we could be able to explain people how to make curd and then draw more traction and then move it to our own online delivery channel for delivery of product. So I think that way it has shaken a lot of things for us, and I'm thankful that it did this. Otherwise, we would have been in the mode of lethargy for a lot more time before we would have woken up to the fact. And COVID has woken us up to that fact, and we're trying to go forward.
Great, thanks for that. And now I'd actually like to go over to Subbu. We heard Mr. Ranjan talk a little bit about the importance of digital transformation, especially in the MSME segment. And Mr. Ranjan, I'll get right to you. But before that, Subbu, I just want to hear from you. What has your experience been working with all of these MSMEs? Because as Aparna and Sunil have described, a lot of changes, but very positive. And there always is a way forward, pandemic or not. So it's great to hear their success stories, but what has been your experience working with many MSMEs, especially through this experience where we've had to face digital transformation at a very accelerated rate?
Sure, thank you, Priyanka. So firstly, I think all that Sunil mentioned and Aparna mentioned have been quite interesting in the way that the COVID-induced change has propelled us to think about technology in a different manner. What Aparna said is that why can't people buy whatever she says, concrete, building materials on a digital platform if we are used to buying groceries online? So what we have seen is a lot of things have changed. Digital has actually untethered people from their physical workspaces. So you don't necessarily need to be where you were earlier. That was our old school thought, right? So you have been untethered now. You can do whatever you want from wherever you are. That is one. Second, our whole consumption methodology has changed. The mindset has changed. Look at how we consume education now. It's all online. Textbooks are digitized. Look at, I never used to watch OTT programs as much as I started watching during the lockdown. So consumption has completely changed. As Sunil mentioned, we don't really know if these habits are going to stay or not. Are we really going to get into theaters, physical theaters, or continue watching movies or web series rather at home? So what we've seen is a lot of changes happen, and the most important change that I saw, two of them I'll cover. The first one, Sunil mentioned, digital interactions, digital selling. I don't remember in my many years of experience when could I have actually spoken to a prospect and said, "Sir, I will speak to you through a Zoom call. I will not come and visit you." That has never happened, right? But today people are more accepting of each other, of the constraints, and willing to talk to each other through digital mediums. So I would say that's one thing that has completely transformed everything. The advent of digital in interactions, the advent of digital in payment has completely changed our attitude to not just life but also to work culture. The most important point that we have seen in our interactions with MSMEs and cultures is acceptance. Okay, so it's one thing to say that we're all in the same pandemic, we're all in the same boat, but totally another to appreciate that people are working under various constraints, and to help you from these constraints is where technology steps in. And we have seen that. I'm going back to what C.K. Prahlad had written many years back, the bottom of the pyramid. The number of companies that were left out of the digital transformation wave before COVID struck was so many. I mean, you never knew there were so many companies that still didn't have technology. I heard this at the beginning of this session that there were so many people who never even had access to email, right? So in our experience in the MSME space, if I were to draw a line at 300 crores turnover, the number of companies under 300 crores that have come on the digital transformation wave has been massive. We have never seen so many small companies wanting to embrace technology as they have done in the last 10 months. Never. And more importantly, we've been known to leapfrog, right? We've leapfrogged the mobile technology. We have even leapfrogged on the application space. Okay. So today, the world is talking about cloud, but in India, there is hardly anyone I come across these days who wants to start with on-premise software data centers in their place. Everybody wants to start with cloud. There is a leapfrogging that has already happened, and we've not even known it. Okay, for SAP India, our cloud revenues have increased beyond 50%. Okay, which we were aspiring for a few years back. We didn't know when we were going to reach there. We've already reached there. Okay, so in a sense, we've seen a lot of change. But I will maybe call out one change which is going to come up in the next few years. Sunil mentioned that the number of entrepreneurs are going to increase. Yes, we do see that. You're sitting at home when you're envisaging the problems, when you're going through that, you come up with creative solutions to daily problems, right? So we are seeing a lot of entrepreneurs coming up, a lot of expectations coming from companies like ours, where technology has to be. They're all digital native. They start with technology on day one. More so, there are some technologies which have always been of promise, and now they are showing up in actual usage. In socially distanced industries like hospitality or warehousing, robotics and augmented reality have already started taking place, right? You can already see that. So we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more of creativity and more of entrepreneurs coming up. So our experience, Priyanka, in a nutshell, has been very eye-opening. From a people standpoint, it's empowerment and skilling. From a technology standpoint, new technologies and leapfrogging. Okay. From a process standpoint, it's the way that customers have started embracing technology to re-architect their process, re-architect their supply chain. Everything has undergone a sea change. So, and the silver lining in COVID for us is that it has helped us reach out with technology to a section of the population that never had this aspiration. So we would say it was a blessing in disguise for Indian companies, and this could possibly propel us to the next wave of competitive edge against. If China plus one is a strategy, then this is what is going to help us reach there.
Right. Thanks, Subhuji. Really important points brought up by you. All those points, I'd just like to go to Mr. Ranjan on his final thoughts, because 26 lakh MSMEs is no joke. It is a lot of MSMEs, and we've heard from two really successful entrepreneurs today share their stories, how they've adapted. We've also heard from Subbu, on the changes and how it was just basically a blessing in disguise for India, which is a very positive take on this entire pandemic situation that none of us have really experienced before, both personally as well as professionally. So when we talk about 26 lakh MSMEs, what are your thoughts on digital transformation, and how do you see the government especially working with these MSMEs in the future?
So one thing which we have actually done in Telangana is see, certain industry verticals are more important. Hyderabad is a very important center for the life sciences industry. Similarly, we find that there are large number of MSMEs who are into what we call defense electronics or consumer electronics. They manufacture small components, small ancillaries. Quite a few of them are in the food processing sector, and so on and so forth. So we have identified about 5 sectors where there are large number of MSMEs. And we have also studied with the help of a consultancy firm very thoroughly in which ways they actually were impacted during this pandemic and lockdown. So for instance, did they lose workers? As you know, during the lockdown period, lots of migrant workers moved back. So did they get impacted by lack of workers? Did they get into difficulties due to lack of raw material? Their suppliers stopped supplying, and so on and so forth. So whichever way, did the consumer preference in their sector change completely? So they are finding it very difficult to sell their products now till they identify new markets. So for 5 important sectors of Telangana, we have done this study to find out what exactly are the pain points, and are there digital solutions to alleviate those pain points. And fortunately, I did not, when I spoke about the Kirana stores, I did not mention this point, but it is of relevance to this question as well. We were able to succeed enormously with hundreds and thousands of Kirana stores because we approached them through their organization. See, all the Kirana stores are members of a national organization which is called CAIT, Confederation of All India Traders, and they have a strong chapter in Hyderabad. But we were able to get access to their national leaders in Delhi. So the national organization, the Hyderabad chapter, they kind of pushed this agenda, and they were able to convince their members to come and join. So that extension work was done by a credible body, which is their association. So our interest in Telangana also is to work with MSME associations, their own people, so to say, and using the MOU that we have signed with SAP India, bring digital tools, the ERP solutions. And as both Sunil and Aparna Garu mentioned, there are lots of learnings from experiences of theirs on how there are various imperatives which you have to respond to in a very timely way about digital opportunities, etc. So I'm very confident that it's only a matter of time before even the smallest, the microest unit as well would try to get advantages and benefits out of digital. As long as we make it affordable, easily accessible, support in capacity building, skilling, and help them organize around this using their own associations and bodies, etc.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ranjan. With that being said, Subbu, you also work a lot with these MSMEs. So any parting thoughts, especially on, what our young entrepreneurs can do? As Mr. Ranjan was saying, boost for entrepreneurship. The hope is that more entrepreneurs kind of come aboard and start their own thing and be successful as well. Any parting thoughts?
Sure. As Mr. Ranjan has said already, we need to encourage entrepreneurs to take up technology, right? So I would say to the entrepreneur community here that decide on the outcomes. We spoke about digitalization, right? Do you want to automate or do you want to digitalize? That's the first step. So decide that, and then look up to a partner that has industry best practices that can help you on this digital journey. But do not get left out of this digital transformation wave that's currently going on, because you need to have that competitive edge. It's not about catching up. It's about creating that edge where you can compete with not just local players, but also international and global players. So I would say we are here to help. We have a rich heritage. We're going to be about 25 years right here in the country. We have more than 11,000 customers inside India. 8,000 of them are SMEs. So any support, help that you need, we are here, glad to provide that help. We are here to upskill. We are here to provide you with partners. We are here to provide you the roadmap. So do talk to us. Visit growthmattersforum.com, as I said early on. That should also give you a leg up or step into this forum, and we will make sure that together we can traverse this journey of success.
Thanks so much, Subhuji. Well, that being said, I'd like to thank our fabulous panel, Ms. Aparna Reddy, Mr. Sunil Reddy, Principal Secretary Jayesh Ranjanji, and of course, Subhuji, for being a part of this panel. Your insights were really, really, what I want to say is specific. They weren't very general, which is what a lot of virtual events go towards. You shared your personal experiences, both with working with MSMEs and also on the entrepreneurship front. So I'm sure our audience has a lot to gain from each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. And with that being said, thanks for watching the Leaders of Global Bharat virtual event, which is a special initiative of TV9 Network and SAP India. We will also be running Global Bharat cafes on different pillars that we spoke about of the Global Bharat movement, starting with digital transformation, and that's going to start on February 25th. So we'll share the schedule right after the session. So audience, please stay tuned right here to see the schedule when we're done. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you again to all of our guests. Fabulous goodbye. Have a great day. Until then, until next time, this is Priyanka Deo from TV9 signing off. Thanks so much. Namaste.
Bye. Thank you.